So I feel like I'm back in November of 2018. I've got the Huawei P20 Pro that I picked up in November of 2018 to use as my daily phone. Now I'm going to be looking at the phone in 2023 to see if it's worth buying over 4 years later. There are still some really great features of the P20 Pro, but how does it stack up in 2023? Stick around to find out, and let's get into it. Now, I'm not going to go through every little intricate detail of the P20 Pro. I'm just going to do a quick overview of its design. Got a all glass and aluminium build, Gorilla Glass 5 on the back and on the front as well. 40 megapixel triple camera system on the back, and then a 6.1 inch OLED display on the front with a 60 Hz refresh rate. So in terms of the display, 6.1 inch OLED display, it's still a really nice display in 2023. Of course, you've got that really thick chin on the bottom, which houses that capacitive fingerprint scanner, which of course can be used as a navigation key as well for various things. And then up the top, you've got a notch which houses the 24 megapixel selfie camera, and then a speaker for the stereo speaker effect on the P20 Pro. Now, one thing that I did say about the P20 Pro back in my 2021 review, I think it was, that of course, if you're going to house a notch on the display, you'd think that they would try harder to remove the chin at the bottom of the phone, because it's kind of a pointless exercise in my opinion. But that's obviously what Huawei did with the P20 and the P20 Pro. But it's good that there is some functionality to that big chin in the bottom with that fingerprint scanner, not like some other budget phones around today. But overall, the display is really nice. It's a sharp 1080p panel with over 400 pixels per inch. The fact that it's a 60 Hz refresh rate back in 2018 is not the end of the world, but of course in 2023, when there are a lot of high refresh rate displays about, that might be something that will be a bit of an issue for some people. But overall, content consumption on this display is really, really nice. Colors are punchy, it's a sharp display. I've got no complaints other than the lack of a high refresh rate, but again, it's not the end of the world. Going on to the back of the phone, of course, you've got that glass design on the back, Gorilla Glass 5, so it's nice and sturdy glass. Of course, it's a few generations back than the other Gorilla Glass options, but it's still a nice sturdy phone. There's a few little specs on the back of this model that I've got here. I've got it in midnight blue, unfortunately not the twilight that I had my original P20 Pro in, but this blue color is actually really quite nice. I do really like it. And then of course up in the top left, you've got your triple camera system with a 40 megapixel f1.8 primary camera, an 8 megapixel f2.4 3x telephoto camera, and then a 20 megapixel f1.6 monochrome camera. Now the monochrome sensor was of course a bit of a highly discussed thing when the P20 Pro came out. A lot of people were disappointed that there was no ultra wide, and the function of the monochrome camera of course is, other than to take black and white photos, is to add more detail into the photos taken with the main 40 megapixel camera, which does 4-in-1 pixel binning, and P20 Pro kind of made that mainstream, I think, if I can remember. So it bins down to 10 megapixel images, and then the 8 megapixel telephoto camera as well, which does 3 times optical shots. Now the photos from the main camera of the P20 Pro are really nice photos. Back when I was using this as my main phone, I thought, wow, what a camera, it's absolutely amazing. And it's still good, but after using newer phones like iPhones, and especially Pixels and things like that, I do find that the P20 Pro photos have come out really, really sharp, quite over sharpened in a lot of scenarios. I didn't seem to find that issue with the Mate 20 Pro and the P30 range that I reviewed as well. And that is something that is definitely evident on the photos of the P20 Pro. And of course that AI mode, which I have mentioned in previous Huawei reviews, was very aggressive in the P20 Pro. And that's definitely the case here. The greens look a little bit over the top, as does the blue with the blue sky and things like that. But of course you can switch that off to give you more natural looking photos, but they still have that sharpened look. And then punching in that 3 times telephoto camera, they do produce some really great sharp photos. There doesn't seem to be as much of an effect with the AI mode on that telephoto camera as there is on the main. But overall, the photos are absolutely usable, not a problem. But I would recommend maybe turning off that AI mode if you want some more realistic looking photos. And then of course, video is shot at 4K, but this isn't stabilized, so it is a bit of a shaky mess. 1080p is stabilized. The main camera and the telephoto camera both have optical image stabilization. So when you're shooting 1080p video, it is nice and stable. Of course, it's not the highest quality video. Even when the phone came out, Huawei weren't known for their really high quality video, but it is absolutely fine for your basic needs. The 24 megapixel selfie camera on the front is okay. I did find that Huawei was very aggressive in the beauty modes, despite having the mode turned all the way down. I did find that my face was a little bit too smooth for my liking, but it's good enough for just everyday selfies of your family and that sort of stuff. I don't think you'll be too disappointed with the results. I have found that photos from the selfie cameras of like the Google Pixels are a lot better, they're a lot sharper, and they're only 8 megapixel photos. So it doesn't matter what the resolution is, it's the image processing and the quality of the sensor which matters. And in this case, the P20 Pro selfie camera isn't the best that I've used by any stretch of the imagination. And then going over to performance, the P20 Pro houses the Huawei Kirin 970 processor, which for those of you that may or may not remember, this is something that Huawei bigged up a lot with its AI capabilities. And to be honest, I think that's what gave manufacturers a bit of a kick up the backside when it came to improving their AI capabilities, and AI became a really massive thing with almost every iteration. But the Kirin 970 is absolutely fine with everyday use. Of course, it's about on par. Sorry, my dog's in here shaking around and making a noise, but yes, Kirin 970, absolutely fine for your daily tasks. It's about on par with sort of lower to mid-range processors of today. It's not going to be up there with, of course, the flagship processors. It's built on a 10 nanometer architecture, so of course, again, it's not the most efficient like what you find today with 5 or 4 nanometer processors. And then we have a 4,000 milliamp hour battery inside the P20 Pro with 22.5 watt fast charging. Now, this is enough to get me through a full day of my sort of mild to moderate use. But if you're an intense user with loads of games, loads of use of the camera, loads of video watching and all that sort of stuff, you may be able to kill it in a day. But thanks to that 22.5 watt fast charging, you can get it charged up relatively quickly. Of course, that's pretty slow by today's standards, but overall, it's a pretty decent phone. But one thing that the P20 Pro does omit, and that's not something that they introduced until the Mate 20 Pro, and that is wireless charging. So despite having an all-glass design, the phone does not support any wireless charging. Personally, for me, that's not the end of the world. I'm quite happy plugging my phone in, and with that 22.5 watt fast charging, it's fast enough. For those of you that like wireless charging, you might have an issue with the P20 Pro. And in terms of software on the P20 Pro, it's running the old Android 10 with EMUI version 12 on top. So it's slightly up to date in terms of EMUI versions. They tend to introduce newer security patches and stuff like that. But in terms of actual Android versions, it's running the old Android 10, and the chances are it's not going to get any more updates, course, being over 4 years old now. And the phone does have full IP67 water and dust resistance as well. So if you drop it in the sink or anything like that, you'll be absolutely fine with the P20 Pro. So that's my look at the P20 Pro very quickly in 2023. Overall, it's a really great phone. It's still got a really premium build with that all glass and aluminium design, Gorilla Glass 5 protection, so that's really great. It's got a really high quality OLED display despite only being 60 Hertz. It's got a pretty decent size 4,000 milliamp hour battery for all day battery life. And then of course that camera, whilst it's definitely not the best anymore, the photos do come out a little bit over sharpened for my taste. It's still a really great camera and has plenty of flexibility with that 3x telephoto camera as well. But do let me know in the comments what you think of the Huawei P20 Pro. Are you using one? Is it one that you would consider buying in 2023, or do you think it's too old? And do let me know in the comments if there's any other old flagship devices that you'd like me to take a look at. I'm kind of running out of ideas, so it'd be nice to hear from you guys what you'd like to see. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out when I upload new videos, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video.